What's going on, people? I'm your host Jordan, and today we'll be talking about individual differences as they relate to sport and exercise. And so the two main aspects of individual differences would be intrapersonal and interpersonal differences. Interpersonal being the differences between people, and then intrapersonal being the differences within oneself. So if we begin with interpersonal, and we look at lifestyle factors that might contribute to someone having more or less of an advantage in reaching their goals. If we look at someone who is working 12-hour work days and struggles to find any time to be able to cater to their other obligations, the likelihood that they are actually going to be able to fulfill obligations such as going to the gym at their maximum capacity is pretty much impossible. And on the days they do go to the gym, they'll be extremely lethargic, which means that they'll be a hell of a lot less likely to actually work at their very best. This will obviously cause them to be way less likely to reach their goals. Another lifestyle factor would be diet. So on one hand, we have someone with a disordered eating pattern, and on the next one, we have someone who has a well-rounded diet and make sure they cater to their diet in a scheduled, sustainable manner. The person who is catering to their diet less will obviously not have an optimized training capacity or adaptation capacity, as their training will not be exalted by what they are putting in their bodies. So this would mean that they'll be way less likely to reach their physiological potential, if at all. And the other person would be way more likely to reach their physiological potential and would be way less likely to deal with minor hiccups in reaching their physiological adaptations. Third example would be impulsivity. So someone who is extremely impulsive and doesn't discipline themselves very much at all will find it extremely difficult to be able to set up a schedule in which they go to the gym and eat in general. So, and if that is extremely disordered, then it's going to be way easier for themselves to talk them out of actually fulfilling those obligations or convincing themselves to be able to reach their goals. And as much as you can build up those dopaminergic pathways as you go to the gym and allow them to ignite every time you reach a goal, that won't only actually work if you are constantly putting your all into what you do. As if there isn't passion or ambition in what you were doing and what you were trying to accomplish, then obviously those pathways are not going to ignite, if at all. Getting back onto impulsive behaviors though, a lot of people go to the gym tend to not sleep very well, and it's obvious that sleeping is the main way to reach those adaptations, as when you sleep, that's when you recover. So this causes a lot of people to actually miss out on the games that they are so desperately trying to chase in the gym, and it means those long worked hours at the gym will be wasted time. Example number 2 would be technique. So if we look at technique and how that might work intrapersonally, a person who is in their first year of training will be way less likely to be able to perform perfect technique than if they are 2 years, 3 years into their training, as by that point they would have been able to observe way more people complete that exercise and have way more people in their ear telling them what to do or giving them input on how they are performing that exercise. And then if we look at interpersonally, there are going to be people who have been training a lot longer. For example, people who play in sporting competitions are obviously going to be working out and be performing exercises a lot longer than people who are generally doing it for their health and not for work and competitive purpose. So the athletes who have been training for a long time are way less likely to get injured. Now if we look at strength and how fast twitch and slow twitch muscle fibers differ in the way they react to stress. Slow twitch muscle fibers take less time to recover, however when recover with less mass than fast twitch muscle fibers. And fast twitch muscle fibers take a long time to recover, however they grow with a lot more mass. And this is the reason why athletes who partake in weight training may go to the gym half as much as someone who is performing or training for a cardio event. For example, someone who's performing for a cardio event may perform different aerobic methods of training every day to build their mileage up for their big performance. However, someone training for a deadlift competition may only go to the gym 3 times, and this is because the higher load means that their body needs longer time to recover. And this is a common theme in exercise physiology. This is also why on average, larger athletes, for example, an athlete who's 250 pounds may work out a lot less than someone who's 150 pounds, however, and lift a lot higher weight. This is because the immense weight that they're lifting is requiring their bodies to need more rest period. Now, if we got onto gender differences, it's really not that controversial. It's clear that on average, scientifically, men have higher testosterone and muscle mass levels than women. And this just due to the way their genetics are able to be exploited, and this is just a scientific fact. However, there clearly are discrepancies in the data. For example, women can have higher muscle mass and testosterone than men. However, it is very unlikely. And whether you're a man or woman isn't the end all be all, obviously, as it comes to what you want to achieve in your exercise routines. And due to men on average having higher muscle mass than women, it causes them to need more food. Now, if we look at the psychological factors at play, we can start by looking at the 5-factor personality model, which brings about the axiom that there are 5 dimensions to personality, and each one of those 5 factors having 2 subdomains. So, conscientiousness would be industrious and orderliness, agreeableness would be compassion, politeness, neuroticism would be volatility and withdrawal, extroversion would be assertiveness as well as enthusiasm, and last but not least, openness to experience would hold the 2 domains of openness as well as creativity. And then if we take, for example, someone who is extremely conscientious, so extra orderly and industrious, and someone, for example, who is proper extroverted and lower neuroticism, that is probably the perfect combination for ability in performance, as there is no withdrawal and anxiety to the way in which they are performing in the sport. And industriousness gives them a competitive edge as they want to complete the sport well, as they want their performance to be optimized. And orderliness, as they're going to schedule their training to make sure that it is sustainable and consistent. Assertiveness would help, obviously, in the extroverted domain, as if someone is more assertive, they're more likely to complete the task and be more pragmatic. Last but not least, the last subdomain of extroversion, which would be enthusiasm. So, someone who is extremely enthusiastic would be more likely to see the positives in a sporting situation. For example, on a football field, always looking for the next best play, for the next best pass, for the next best opportunity, and would always be looking to be in the optimal position. And then moving on from the big 5 personality model, if we look at the psychoanalytic theory, which would be the last interpersonal difference that we'll be discussing, we can look at the Myers-Briggs personality theory and how that was transcended after Jung created the theory on the personality types and senses. In this theory, there are 16 personality types, and half of which are sensors, half of which are intuitives. And the quarter that are extroverted sensors, dominant, are more likely to be able to perform in the moment well, and are more likely to perform well in sporting situations. This is because obviously you're extroverting your senses, so you're putting on a performance. It is more likely to correlate into sporting success and into performing well. Hopefully, using every single one of these factors, you'll be able to then determine a holistic approach when navigating yourself throughout your exercise endeavors.